Costello woke on his last free day in Seattle. Would he find the sand to get himself in front of Jenna, or would he stay on pace with this nihilistic approach towards another breakdown? Maybe the Bible would give him some guidance. He hadn't bookmarked where he last read and didn't seem to notice any real structure with this fiction, so he just flips open to 1 Thessalonians 4, 3-8. It is God's will that you should be sanctified, that you should avoid sexual immorality, that each of you should learn to control your own body in a way that is holy and honorable, not in passionate lust like the pagans who do not know God, and that in this matter no one should wrong or take advantage of a brother or sister. The Lord will punish all those who commit such sins, as we told you and warned you before. For God did not call us to be impure, but to live a holy life. Therefore, anyone who rejects this instruction does not reject a human being but God, the very God who gives you his Holy Spirit. He closes the book and walks to the mirror. He pulls at his lower lids. He looks into his nostrils. He opens his mouth and surveys his tongue, tonsils, and teeth. Then he shouts, "Are you going to address the man with the notepad? Where is the pen?" He can't recall returning to his room, but every second in the hotel lobby was like an algorithm embedded in his operating system. That pen will have more answers than the keep it in your pants intolerance that book was preaching. He searched every square inch of his room. Finally, he finds a pen in the sheets. A hotel pen, however. Who's to say this pen hasn't been in the room for months? How does he know this is or isn't the pen the man left on the coffee table in the lobby? Costello was incoherently trying to justify a supernatural encounter he experienced, while simultaneously trying to rule it out. Why can't he recall any distinction about the pen? He watched a man speak with it. He picked it up from the table and possessed it. Yet this pen in his room isn't giving him any specter of importance. He threw on a shirt and ran down to the lobby. Business as usual. Nobody was hiding in the reflections. Bellhop seems to be servicing the bell quite well. Concierge desk looks properly staffed. Bar staff were prepping for the day. He surveyed the crowd for someone who may be just willing enough to do something extremely bizarre. Costello spots a candidate and runs over to the front desk for a notepad. He stops the man and kindly asks if he will help him with something that may come off rather odd. He tells him he needs his help writing a note for a friend and is not capable due to an injury to his dominant hand. It appears Costello found his pawn. The man agrees to unknowingly enter into this potentially spectral trial. Costello kept it simple. He gave him 1 sentence to write so he didn't have to interrupt the process. He spoke the words, slowly and deliberately. "Don't forget to pick up Jenna from the airport." Explaining why he needed to write without recitation was a bit of a challenge, but at this point, the man was ready to move along. He began writing. Costello's head sunk when he heard nothing come from the man's conscience. He handed Costello the notepad and gave him a bit of a side-eye as he said, "Hope all goes well with Jenna." Costello knew he was performing a parlor trick on himself, gaslighting himself into disregarding where his mind was taking him. He grabbed a coffee and headed back to his room. New plans for the day. Get back on the risperidone and clean himself up. Maybe go tour the underground city. Find the courage to reach out to Jenna's mom and at least let her know you're in town. For Christ's sake, take that Jeep out for a drive. Costello turned on the shower and tidied up the room while the water was heating. He grabbed the Bible from the bed and notepad from his pocket. When he tossed them in the bedside drawer, he noticed 2 things. His risperidone was missing. That he could deal with, but the second was a bit of a concern. The man didn't write what Costello asked him to write. In very shaky script, the words read, "Don't let Jenna control the voices." Enough was enough. Time to stop allowing his virtue to get the best of him. At least he thought his silence was virtuosity. Once again, he was keeping himself from others to soothe his ego. People need to be interrupted. They want to be tasked. It's freedom from martyrdom by proxy. If you withhold this from people to be virtuous, you're taking away their opportunities to share themselves. Sure, they can initiate this on their own, but not everyone has that capacity. Many times you possess their will. Costello was beginning to open this door. He turns off the shower and steps out on his patio. Costello had a bugaboo about making important phone calls indoors. With no hesitation, he pulls up the text thread with Jenna's mom and makes the call. The phone rang nearly 10 times and she finally answered. "Aaron?" He responded quietly. "Yes. How is everyone?" "Aaron, I hate to be blunt, but it's a very difficult time. Jenna's memory has worsened and she's developing a very hostile behavior towards us," she explained. Costello began. She cut him off and apologized, asked for him to continue. He insisted she go ahead. "Let her speak, Costello." He remained steadfast in handing over the freedom for her to tell him what he needs to hear. She continued. "She's fixated on us helping her see Jeremy from before she left for Los Angeles. We aren't able to explain to her he's married and living in Wyoming. She is adamant we're lying to her because their relationship was so strained. The doctor was hopeful early in her evaluations but doesn't think we'll see any improvement moving forward." "Excuse me." Jenna's mom yells away from the phone. "Don't let Jenna control the voices." Costello's entire body shakes. "Would you mind repeating what you just said?" Jenna's mom answers. "I'm sorry, I was talking to her father. She becomes so confused with the television when newscasters talk about events she doesn't remember. She turns the volume up so loud to listen to their voices. My apologies. I thought I mentioned this last time we spoke." She apologizes again and sadly says, "Aaron, I feel horrible for the chaos in this call. We've meant to reach out recently, but the decline has prompted our departure inward. Any particular reason for your call?" He realizes between his demons and Jenna's deteriorating memory, he is further from ever having his one true partner, even being the closest he's been in months. He replies, "I was just thinking about you guys and calling to say hello. You're great people, and I'm lucky to say you've been part of my life. Please take care of Jenna. If I'm ever in Seattle, I'll be sure to come see you." It was the worst lie he ever told. It was the worst he'd felt. They said goodbye and he turned the shower back on. He pulled 2 airplane bottles of tequila from the minibar and sat in the falling water. Today was turning into his worst day in Seattle yet. No better time to make it a memorable one he'll hopefully forget. Without hesitation, Costello was back in the laboratory and in search of his dystopia. He knew one thing for sure. He wasn't going to let Jenna control his voices.